I couldn't imagine. You're a 19-year-old newlywed and a minor league baseball player when you get the call. The one all players wait for. The call that tells you to come up to the big show. So you hop on the train and head to where the team is at. You get there and St. Louis Browns manager Marty Marion tells you to suit up, rookie. You call your new wife with the news. This is the day the two of you have waited for. The day you put on a big league uniform for the first time. A moment you were waiting for pretty much your whole life. She's excited because she knows how much it means to you and would travel to the ends of the earth to watch you play. And in some ways, she does. Because instead of being at home in Oakland, she's with her father in Colorado, expecting to see her new husband play on his minor league team. While on the phone, he tells her to go home since he is now a St. Louis Brown, and he'll see her soon enough. So his new wife and her father got in the car and drove out of the Rockies over the mountain, heading back home to Oakland. Sure, I'm running the show, and I didn't have to choose this story. There's 100 other stories I could do on players where the story ends with the former player swinging a golf club or fishing during his golden years. But I'm coming up on episode 100 of Held by Legends, Signed by Heroes. And you should know by now that the shows, they come out randomly. Like this show on J.W. Porter, nickname Jay. But don't let his parents hear you say that. They didn't name him that. He was the youngest of 6 kids, and his parents decided instead of a first name, they would give him initials instead. They came up with the letters W and J, so JW it was. What does JW stand for? Absolutely nothing. Young JW would use a rag that was stitched together by his mom to form a baseball, which he would use to throw off the side of the house. The Porter family had no money for a baseball, let alone a mitt. They left Oklahoma in 1943 when the Dust Bowl had just become too much to bear, so they headed west and drove until they hit the Pacific Ocean, ending up in Oakland, California. His dad got a job across the street from Oakland Oaks Ballpark, and JW would walk by the ballpark every day on his way back and forth to school, sometimes stopping outside to listen to the excitement inside. He hung out there all the time and would get himself a job picking up seat cushions for a penny apiece, then moved up to bagging peanuts. The Oaks clubhouse boy was a Japanese kid who was put into an internment camp. JW took over that spot, and his new job as a clubhouse boy lasted 3 seasons. During that time, JW would learn all he could about the life of a ball player while at the park. One of his clubhouse duties was to shine shoes, saying, "I shine the shoes of 2 guys who I later roomed with in the major leagues, Gene Bearden and Ferris Fain." When not at the ballpark or in school, his spare time was spent playing street ball, and in 1948 started attending Oakland Technical High. And when the team needed a catcher, he raised his hand. 6'2", 180 pounds, he was a big high schooler. JW could hit for power and had a strong arm that was accurate. He played American Legion ball and in the Police Athletic League. His pal coach was George Powells, who was also the baseball and basketball coach at the local rival high school, McClymonds High. According to all, George Powells was a great mentor and teacher. Besides his high school job, George coached 2 PAL teams, an American Legion team, and a team in the Connie Mack League. On top of that, he would open up the park and supervise kids who didn't get to play in leagues. J.W. Porter said, "He was like a father figure to kids and the best baseball man that I ever knew, and that includes a dozen managers I knew in the big leagues." When it came to playing high school basketball, JW would have to face his baseball coach and mentor from across the basketball court when the local rivals Oakland Tech and McClymonds High would square off. Coach Powells and his McClymonds players had a young, awkward, gangly player named Bill Russell on their squad. And who do you think was tasked with guarding this legend in the making? The man who would put himself in the Hall of Fame? The man who would have his jersey number retired not just by his high school, college, and pro team, but by the NBA league-wide? The man who was so good in what he did and such a groundbreaking icon in sports and society, a professional sports league retired his number. That's better than a statue. Anyway, who do you think was tasked with guarding this future legend? First of all, you know me, when I set you up with that question, you know what the answer will be, the man of the moment. Well, in this case, it's the teen of the moment. Never said that before. So who do you think was tasked with guarding Bill Russell? Yep, the teen of the moment. J.W. Porter. The kid whose parents didn't give him a first name or a middle name. They just picked a couple of letters. So after my big Bill Russell buildup, it's pretty funny to hear J.W. Porter say this. Bill was not a good basketball player then. He was so awkward, he didn't dribble well, and he couldn't shoot. But by his senior year, he became pretty good. So as the school calendar changes, baseball comes round, and ever since high school, J.W. Porter would have baseball scouts attending his games. As time went on, there would be more top scouts from MLB teams. Here's a few of J.W.'s amateur highlights. As a junior, he hit the game-winning home run in the 15th inning, giving Oakland Tech the league championship. Summer of '49, George Powell recruited him to join the American Legion team. That team won the 1949 American Legion United States Junior National Championship. The road to the finals included 4 tournaments, with J.W. taking home the Silver Cup for the best hitter, getting 27 hits in 49 at-bats with a .551 batting average, which was the highest in the 24-year history of the American Legion tournament. He said this accomplishment was his greatest thrill in baseball. Fall in 1949, J.W., now a senior at Oakland Tech with a steady girlfriend, was picked by his class to be the student body president. And come spring of 1950, he led Oakland Tech to a second league title with a batting average of .558. After graduating, J.W. and his father were invited by the Chicago White Sox to Comiskey Park for a tryout, impressing White Sox manager John Corrigan, who told team owner Chuck Comiskey, "If you let that kid get away without signing him, you're crazy." I'm sure J.W. and his father were happy with his big league tryout, but J.W. was thinking ahead about helping his American Legion team win an unprecedented second straight national title, with a new member playing at third base, a 14-year-old Frank Robinson. In the final of the 3-game series, held in Los Angeles at a ballpark that holds only 750 spectators, J.W. would lead his team to victory by getting 4 hits and a home run. A homer hit so hard, it had the fans in the stands on their feet. Maybe even a few scouts. 75 years later, there probably isn't many of those 750 spectators still around to talk about J.W.'s blast. Not even J.W., who passed away in October of 2020, right in the middle of a worldwide pandemic. Cause of death, I read, he said he died of a respiratory illness, i.e. COVID-19. A little more on the American Legion player whose parents just gave him a couple of letters for a name. J.W.'s American Legion team went 28-1, winning the 1950 Little World Series. The Oaklanders were the first team to win back-to-back American Legion National Championships, with J.W. winning his second batting title and named American Legion Player of the Year. And there's a plaque in Cooperstown at the Baseball Hall of Fame that describes J.W. Porter's achievements as an American Legion player. He would turn down invites with the U.S. national team to play the Pan American Games, and he turned down going to the 1952 Olympics because J.W. wanted to chase his dreams of being a pro baseball player and didn't want to waste any time getting it started. Seems to me when it comes to choosing a career in sports, most athletes choose pro baseball over all the other sports they played and were really good at. Could be the allure of being outdoors during the summer months, and there's a lot of games and teams to play on. Maybe for some, it's the rich history of the game their dad followed and played maybe, and his dad, and so on. J.W. Porter chose a career in baseball with 14 of the 16 big league teams hoping to sign the highly touted player, with LA Times citing scouts who said things like, "He's perhaps the greatest prospect in Diamond history." So 1 month shy of his 18th birthday, J.W. Porter signed with the Chicago White Sox scouts Doc Bennett and Sloppy Thurston for a $67,000 bonus, the largest ever paid to a prospect from the San Francisco Bay Area. And in J.W.'s first pro season, he was with the 3I League and he was Rookie of the Year. Season over, he went home to Oakland and kept in shape by playing basketball with other ball players. And then in January of 1952, he married his high school sweetheart, saying he wooed her with poetry. Hard transition to a couple events in J.W. Porter's MLB career with the Cleveland Indians. J.W. has the distinction of being one half of a very historic moment in baseball history. The other half of this event is Hall of Famer Larry Doby. Put the two halves together, and in 1958, you have the first interracial roommates in baseball history. With J.W. saying this about his black roommate: "No finer man have I ever met." J.W., or as one lazy sports writer who couldn't take the time to call him by his not so proper name given to him by his parents, asked if he could call him just J. J.W. was okay with it, but I bet his parents weren't. They put some time and thought into those 2 out of the 26 letters they were going to use to pick for their name for their son, and I'm pretty sure his parents would say his name is J.W., not J. J.W. Porter was also connected with another Hall of Famer and one of the greatest knuckleballers of all time, Cleveland's newest pitcher, Hoyt Wilhelm. Cleveland's young catchers were having a hard time catching for Hoyt. Coach asked J.W., "Ever caught a knuckleball pitcher?" I said yes, in high school and in the minors. The coach then told Jay he was going to catch for Hoyt the following day. J.W. said that night I couldn't sleep. It was tough enough to catch for him for an inning, but the thought of catching him for 6 or 7 or 8? One more hard transition into my outro, which leads to an even harder transition back to my intro. J.W. Porter is 19 years old and newly married. He just finished playing in his first big league game after being called up just hours before. After the game, J.W. phoned his wife with the news and talked about his new team's remaining schedule, telling her and her father to go back home. He'd see her soon enough. The very next day, after having just achieved his dream of playing Major League Baseball and was no doubt one of the happiest days of his life, it all changed in a heartbeat, and in just a matter of hours, J.W. Porter's life was changed forever. It was St. Louis Browns owner Bill Veeck that put himself in the terrible situation of being the one to inform J.W. that his wife had been killed in a car wreck. J.W. crumpled when he heard the news and was inconsolable. Bill Veeck phoned J.W.'s parents telling them what happened and then arranged for a priest to deliver the news to J.W.'s mother-in-law. Bill then instructed Brown's assistant trainer to gather all of J.W.'s stuff and make the trip back to Oakland with the distraught teenager. A lifetime later, he sadly recalls this life-changing event that nobody would want to have to recall, an event you've spent your whole life trying to forget. But a few years before he passed away, J.W. Porter did recall, and in a voice filled with emotion, said this: "I flew to the town after the season. The sheriff took me to the scene and told me what happened. It was a family from Oklahoma. The man had won a trip from his company for a vacation to Denver. They had been driving all day. It was a windy road in the mountains. The guy got tired and went into the other lane. The car struck and she went over a cliff. A week later, he rejoined the Browns, who were on the road, thinking baseball would keep his mind occupied. It didn't." Another J.W. quote: "It wasn't easy." He would sit alone in his hotel room playing the couple's favorite song on a record player over and over and over, as J.W. says, until the needle wore through. Love you, Dad.